Hey Shooby-Doodlers, how are you doing? Well, today I'm going to be painting these, and these are called Pulmonaria. This kind of pulmonary comes from like the lungs, and in old days, because they've got very spotty leaves, can you see? And in the old days, they thought that looked like diseased lungs, so they thought it was a kind of medicinal herb for lung problems. So the name is Pulmonaria. Pulmonary thing is the Latin word for lungs. But I've always known them as soldiers and sailors, and they come out in springtime here in the UK. And they're called soldiers and sailors because the soldiers would be in red coats and the sailors would be in blue coats. And on the same plant, you get pink and blue flowers. But let's not talk about it. Let's do it. Where on earth do I start with this? I'm going to start with one flower and see what happens. And it's kind of like that. I think I may start doing a little bit of artistic license in this at some point. And I think we got the kind of thing around there. And that will come to there. And then we have these large, I think these are sepals. I think, no, I used to be very keen, as a child, I used to be a very keen botanist, but I don't know. Somewhere all that kind of language and stuff kind of disappears. So then we got a little bit of something going on there. So we want to have, how's this showing up? Yeah, this is going to take a while, I think. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So then here we're going to have something. This is just, I think when you're drawing this kind of thing, you've got to forget that it's a flower. I think that's the secret, because it's such an odd shape, some of it, and you just got to look at the shapes, and that's sort of coming down into this kind of pod that goes there, and there's another kind of little leaf there, and then we're going to have another one of these sort of, obviously I'm a little late, I think, in the season, and some of these have already gone. So you want a leaf about there. I think those of you who watch a lot of my videos will think, oh, he hasn't got that rotring pen out. I think that's kind of inappropriate for this. I think they'd be far too hard an edge. And what I'm really trying to do here is, I'm trying to do a Mother's Day card, actually. This is what I want to do, and I know that my mother, she's very susceptible to the seasons. And soldiers and sailors have always been a kind of a harbinger of spring and hooray, summer's on its way kind of thing. So so that's what I'm actually going to do. This is actually going to turn into my Mother's Day card, but don't tell her before Sunday. Mother's Day is on Sunday here in the UK. I know it's later in the US and other countries, but here it's on Sunday. So this needs to have a kind of a patterny thing going on there. So I'm going to imagine this one a little bit. So I've got to get the right number of petals. So I'm making this one up now, mainly because down here it's sepal bit here has been eaten by a slug in the real live one that I'm copying. This is a photograph of what I'm drawing. The funny box thing that's sitting on the floor is an IPEVO. It's a visualizer. I'm going to be using that on Saturday. Tomorrow I'm going to be doing a live broadcast with my son. We're going to be doing we're crazy. We're going to be doing a challenge. We're going to be challenging each other to do silly drawings or whatever, and hopefully you'll come in and join, and you'll give us some challenges too, which is kind of asking for trouble, isn't it, really? So here, can I get this? So that needs to be a bit thinner coming out, and then that
kind of goes that way and there, but then we'll see another one around on the other side there. We've got it quite a bit darker around the base. We want another one here. So this is going to be a lot of drawing and nattering. I think it's and this again, this has been attacked by the wind and the rain, so they're not the best specimens in the world. And again, I'm kind of making it up a little bit to make it a bit more interesting. And I think here we need to, here we have a little bud that's sort of trying to come out and flower, and here we have one again that's kind of it's don't look at the flower, just look at the shapes. That's the secret. I think that's the secret to a lot of drawing. I think when you're looking at things and think, how do I draw that, and you just don't even know where to start. Probably half your problem is that you are actually looking at the shapes. Now I'm going to stick there isn't one here. I'm adding that in just to fill that space. I'm making it up. Hey, this is fake flower art, Donald Trump would be up in arms. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. So we want kind of two stems and want another one kind of coming up here. That's interesting. When I usually do Mother's Day cards, they're always portraits, so they're kind of long and that way. And I think this is going to, for the first time probably ever, I don't know, this is going to be landscape. So it's going sort of sideways. I always think of flowers as being going up, so this is much more sideways. Right, we want a little bit more there. That's got it, yeah. And then we want a little bit of that one, and then we can have a bit more of a leaf in there. That's curling around here to where we can see a nice sort of shaped leaf coming in there. And then we're going to have all that problem with the Pulmonaria side of it, the spotted leaves. But I have a plan for that. Fret ye not. So I have a plan. It was actually about a year and a half ago, and I was up at the Wigtown Book Festival, and Mary Hedwick, who does the Katie Morag stories, was there, and she was talking about sketching actually, and it was very interesting. It was the first session of the whole festival, in fact, and so that's very interesting. And she was showing lots of sketches that she did, going around the Highlands and the islands of Scotland, and she used a lot of white wax pencil, and I thought, and I just happened to have one with me, so I thought I'm going to use that all this week while I'm here. So anyway, she uses a white wax pencil, and what she does is, here we are, look, and they usually come, it's called a China graph sometimes, you've got a China marker. Need to sharpen this. So they usually come with this kind of little piece of string here which you pull back, and then you unwrap the paper that's around it. I'm just going to sharpen this up a bit. So this is just white wax basically, and if you draw onto the paper with it, like I'm going to do, this is very boring because you can't see what I'm doing, then you're going to get little bits of white wax left on, what's the word I'm looking for? On the paper. Talking and drawing and thinking at the same time, it's not easy, so we want some little bits there, I think. This one's going to be quite important, that one, yeah. So if you sort of put these dots, and I suppose if I look sideways I can just about see it. So I can't actually see what I'm drawing. So I'm just kind of pretending, really. Then they will act as a resist. Did I put? I did. I'm just going to assume that I've done that. Then they will act as a resist, and then they will act as a resist, so that the colour can't get to the paper, and the white will still show through. So instead of having to paint the white on afterwards, it's there already. Now, I think what I'm going to do, I've got a brand new, this is the first time using a brand new, I've got a brand new aquash pen here. This is just straight out of the packet, so that's really, really nice. I think that's actually possibly a bit too dark, I think. Maybe I want it really quite pale here, so I'm going to put in these, actually I'm just going to colour in all the bits that should be yeah, no, that's fine there, because they got a bit. Actually, I'll do those separately. So I'm going to do the leaves, and I don't know. Can you see it's kind of separating out a little bit where the white wax is? And I think maybe we could put a bit of darker in there, and then you can maybe see it. But I might have to come in afterwards and add a little bit extra. I think. I think maybe I could have another leaf in the back there just to make it much darker. There. And these are quite fresh colour, these leaves. And the stems, of course. So I'm wanting these little bits there like that, a little bit there, and there, and there. And here too, so it's just kind of building it up. And I always say the same things when I'm doing watercolour, don't I? But if you've watched my videos before, you go, here he goes. And but I think it's important to just keep reminding, and then some people are only watching for the first time, that watercolour is different. It's different to painting with oil paints and acrylics. And I think a lot of people sort of think of watercolour as being, oh, that's for kids because it's easy and it's, you know, easy to clean. But I think ask any artist who works in oil paints and they'll go, oh no, don't want to do watercolour, it's far too difficult. And I think the reason is that oil paints have the colour in the paint, and so when you paint, you're actually putting colour down on the canvas, and it's the paint itself that reflects the light and creates the colour, or it creates the effect of colour in your eyes, as it were. It's, in fact, it's your eyes that are interpreting it. So, but watercolour is very, very different. So the light in watercolour is actually coming from the paper. So it's like, assume this white paper is like a bright light shining, and what you're doing with watercolour is layering it over the top with very thin layers. So you know those kind of candies, toffees and things that come wrapped in cellophane, and you know, as a kid you used to stick it over your eye to look through it and see the world in pink or purple or whatever. It's just like that. You're putting kind of like cellophane, thin coloured sheets of cellophane over the white paper and letting the light shine through. So you have to be delicate, and you have to build the colours. You can't rush it. You just can't rush it. So now I'm going to add a little bit of kind of redness to the green, maybe a touch more. And start putting in the kind of the base of these sepals. I think that one is, but I think that should be a leaf. So I'm putting these in, which at the moment looks a rather boring, strange colour, but then I'm going to add over the top. As I say, you've got to build. Build as you go. So you start off with these layers, and I think, not sure there. This should be here, yeah. That should have been darker, shouldn't it? Yes. And another thing with watercolour is then every now and then, you see, there's various kind of techniques that you can do. You can paint into the wet, which is kind of what I'm doing at the moment. It's still wet, so I'm sort of painting and adding to bits while they're wet. But then you can, so I mean, for instance, while that's wet, I can add a little bit of, say, red in there, and then just sort of blend it in like that. But once it's dry, I can't do that. So when it's dry, I think that should be a leaf. Then when it's dry, you can paint over the top, but then it's like adding a whole new layer rather than blending it in. So there are lots of different sort of techniques of watercolour, and there is no better way of learning than just to keep doing it. And sort of you paint a little bit every day. So this is still wet, and I'm just kind of working into the colour there. I think that should be green, really. I think that should be green too. So we are getting there. It takes time to build it up, as I say. And some of these leaves, like this, has got a little kind of red tinge to the edge of it, and so that could have a little red tinge to it as well there, I think. I'm just going to blend that in. So I think I'm going to start blocking in this colour. It's actually quite a lot more reddy purple, this one. Reddy pinky blue. And it has that kind of hint of yellowness in the... There's so many subtle colours going on. So I'm going to leave that there. And this one as well, that'll be like that. And it actually wants to be a bit more blue there, I think. And this one wants to be quite blue. So they're all at different stages of colour as well. And I'm just blocking in a kind of a wash. What have we got here? These are blue. Like that. This one here needs to be quite pinky, but verging to the blue. There's a lot going on there. So I'm going to put some blue. I'm dropping it in while it's wet. This one here again, we want that kind of slightly pinky in there, but then a bit more blue on the edges. So yeah, that works. You've got that kind of pinky inside. And this is a blue as well. But this is blue and it's turning quite pink at the end here. Like that. this again is quite dark, kind of more reddy purple here. In fact, like that. And then it comes down to almost completely pale there. Like that. There we are. And these have kind of dark centres in there. But there's also this little hints of kind of yellow. There's all strange things going on. And then we want one that really is pink as well. So this one is pink. As are the other ones. Here, so this was pink. That's probably a bit, no, that's not too pink. And that's a blue. That's quite definitely blue, this one. So you can see some of the flowers are pink for soldiers, and some of them are red. Some of them are red for soldiers, and some of them are blue for sailors, and some are kind of somewhere in between, which gets a little complicated. So here we're gonna bring that there, and dear, so I want that kind of. And this needs to kind of come out from the centre, and again we need this quite dark bit underneath, and again we want this quite darkness to these sepals, and it's kind of building up the tone and the colour as you're going along. And there's one there too. It should be more browny. I think one of the problems with doing something like this is, when do you stop and how long do you keep going on for? There's always a moment where you think, oh dear, have I gone too far? And you don't want to do that. I think I might have to use some white on the end to add it on top. And here I'm using a darker green to kind of help lift these little stems out as well. So there's darkness on the leaf, sort of shadow. And then they do tend to have this kind of pinky tinge on the edge of the leaves. And some of the leaves are actually falling to bits. As I say, I think it's the end of the season for them. So I should have started earlier, done this earlier, but I've been so busy. And if you were to support me on Patreon, you would know that, because I do put more updates on Patreon than I do on YouTube, and kind of let you know little personal things of what I'm up to, and let you into what the work I'm doing, and kind of little technical secrets and things like that. So there's a link up here somewhere if you want to go and find out about my Patreon page and how you can support me there and just find out more stuff about what I do. So I think that definitely needs to be more there. You can see the white popping through there because it's darker, so obviously it needs a certain level of shade and tone to actually see the white bits. And again, this is all about, you know, building it up, which makes for a long video. Some people really like long videos, and I'm just going to keep going with this one and make it a really long video, because I haven't done a really long video for a long time. I think we need something like that. It is very pale at the moment, isn't it? So what I'm going to do is, I've got my trusty hairdryer. Someone was asking me, how do you know when it's dry to put on the next layer? Well, I suppose it's trial and error, really. I usually sort of go like that, and if it smears, I know it's still wet. It's a bit late by then, isn't it, really? So, I don't know. That's a tricky one, isn't it? I suppose that's kind of one of those things you just have to do again and again and again. And it's, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, just experience and practice, I think. You know, there's no little alarm clock is going to tell you, ooh, ding, I'm ready. So these are quite spotty, these little things here, so I'm going to kind of try and put some texture in them, like that. Oh, I like that. So they're more kind of hairy, I suppose, than spotty. So I'm just going to put this texture into them. And the spring is busting out all over here. Don't know if you can hear the chaffinches in the background twittering me. I will do my chaffinch impersonation. Okay. There we go. Oh, there's the one out in the garden. That was in the garden. I don't know if you heard that. If you've got headphones on, you probably could. I think maybe I shouldn't quite be doing this spottiness yet, because I think I need to be doing a bit more shading in there. I think we need to get that one in underneath there, like that. And they're definitely kind of more red at the ends, like coming into that, and then they kind of become spotty, so they're more red there, and then yeah, and that gives a bit more sort of feeling of something going on there, doesn't it, as well? So. I'm talking complete rubbish. A feeling of something going on there. It doesn't really mean anything at all, but I know what I mean, and I hope you have a rough idea of what I mean too. So I want this kind of redness. I think, actually, no, we need to put a bit more. Oh, it's difficult to decide what colours are in this. It's all kind of reds and greens in these sepals, and they need to be a bit darker, I think. So yeah, it's tricky. So that certainly needs to be darker underneath there, and then that can be a bit but that needs to be more kind of red up at this end here, coming down. As I say, at the kind of the ends of the sepals, they're quite red. At this end here, the flower end, the opening end. JD sort of going on calling them sepals. I'm pretty sure they are, but if I'm wrong, I'm sure somebody's going to tell me in the comments box below. You dolt, you know nothing, you idiot. And it's generally on I find on Facebook people are generally quite friendly with their comments. I think it's because of the subject. I think if I was doing a political blog, of course, I think I'd just be getting all sorts of bile and vitriol and trolling. But you do get some people who get very, very upset about drawing, and they do write some pretty distasteful things in the comments box. But that's their problem. I just block them and erase the comment. Sometimes I don't know. It depends on the comment, and sometimes I'll sort of answer back in a polite kind of way, and then they'll come back and go, "Oh my goodness, you're a real person." You actually bothered to take the time, and then they become all quite, "Oh, terribly sorry, I didn't actually mean that, what I said," but so yeah, people get very, very strange on the internet. They become different people, don't they? So I'm going to be putting in, starting to put a bit of blue in to darken up these, like as a shadow kind of thing, but to just kind of differentiate things that are more in the background than in the shadow. Like that. So that will be there, and then that can, yes. I've been thinking a lot about YouTube recently, and the kind of my YouTube journey. I hate that phrase, but I have had a journey on YouTube. So I mean, we use that phrase "journey" because it says what we're trying to say, I think. So yeah, I came across a video. Well, actually, no, I had a comment on a video, an old video this week, and I thought, well, what does that mean? And they're obviously referring to something I'd said in the video, so I watched it back, and it was 2012, I think January 2012. And so there's me, my face at the beginning, introducing the video, and I thought, oh my goodness, I look dead behind the eyes. And I think there has definitely been I have changed a lot since I've been on YouTube, and right at the beginning it was like manic. It's like, whoa, this is a new toy, this is fantastic, and it was just amazing, and YouTube was all new and changing every day, and it was fantastic, and it was just amazing, but then you can't keep that kind of level of energy up forever. So I think at that point, I can remember that sort of around about that time, of just going, ugh. And I think also, up until I started doing YouTube, also up until I started making YouTube videos, I didn't actually draw as much. So now I'm just drawing all the time, because if I'm not illustrating a book or something, then I'm thinking about the next video and practicing and drawing sketches, and I think it has actually rewired my brain. And whereas before I was very much a kind of an author who did pictures, and so language was kind of really important, and I was always thinking about the words and the story that I was going to be taking. So I suppose I was kind of freely erudite and could just keep talking and making it up as I went along, as it were. And then, I don't know, something changed. It changed. I think so my brain has been rewired, so I'm now much more into visuals, and you can hear, I just stopped then, didn't I? And that's kind of how it works. So, you kind of, while you're, I think in the old days I'd have carried on talking while I was thinking of the proper word, and then I'd have come back to the picture. Whereas now I'm sort of painting the picture, and then I'm having to concentrate on that bit, so the word becomes less important. And so, I tend to pause quite a lot now, I think, more than I did when I started. It was like I was just had verbal diarrhea. And just talking 19 to the dozen. And I had another comment this week about somebody saying, "Oh, I love the way." Well, I have a few comments this week about, "Oh, I like the way you just keep talking." And then other people can't stand it. You cannot please all the people all of the time. It's true. We are getting there. And I think we need a bit more kind of pinkness in there. A bit more pinkness in there. There's this little pink bud here as well, isn't there? That needs to be done there too. And I don't think we're kind of really getting that Pulmonaria-ness in there, so I think I'm going to have to come in with some white paint at the end. I think this also needs to be a bit darker. That can be darker under there. And like I said, we can have these kind of little hints of red at the tips of the leaves as well there. I think I'm definitely going to have to paint more white in there. There, did you hear that, Chaffinch? There you go. That wasn't me whistling. We just have to make this darker and darker to make these little stems stick out, but I think it wants to be more, it's a bit more green in there as well. It's starting to look all sort of brown rather than green. There. I think greens are really hard to handle, and again it's just experience, isn't it? You can get lots of different shades of green in your paint pot with watercolor brands have all sorts of different kind of colors that you can get. But of course you can mix greens with your yellows and blues and things, and it's not easy. Yeah, I think we need a bit more. A bit more blue. Oh, still. Yeah. A bit more blue. Yes, that's more blue, isn't it? And that can sort of fade. Now with this water brush here, then the thing about it is that it keeps flowing down the handle. The water keeps flowing, so as you're painting, then the colour is getting slightly thinner all the time. something quite dark in there. So I think I'm actually being far too subtle, I think, in some ways. But then that's the... Sometimes it's just looking nice and pale, and you think, oh, it's really nice and ethereal, but in fact you really want to kind of darken it up. So there we go. There's probably lots of silences and pauses, aren't there? What else can I tell you about? What's going on? What's new? I don't know really. No, well, I'm doing a lot. I've been doing a lot of pencil illustrations, pencil roughs. Oh, all these flowers that I'm drawing, they're all dying. They're all wilting. That's why I'm finding it so difficult. I just realised that they were wilted. They obviously don't like being picked out. So, yes, I've been doing lots of roughs for a book. I don't think I can quite tell you about it yet. It's not all contracted. I'm doing all the work without a contract. But I know the contract's on its way. But I'm just not quite sure whether it's public yet. So it's a book that I'm illustrating, which I didn't write, which is quite unusual for me these days. And but it's been written by somebody quite famous in the world of children's books. So it's rather fun. And so yes, I've been doing pencil roughs for that. And then I've been writing a couple of books, phonics books. So these are for kids in kind of grade 1 and 2, I guess, probably in years 1 and 2, sort of, so kindergarten 1 and 2, something like that. We have a different kind of grading system here in UK. So kind of it's for sort of 7-year-olds, I suppose. And so one of them is a drawing book, but it has to be in phonics. So a very limited vocabulary I'm allowed to use. Not only vocabulary, limited kind of number of letters I'm allowed to use. I'm not allowed to use the whole alphabet while writing. And so that's presenting problems. But in fact, I'll just have for my editor today, I'm allowed to use more words than I thought I was allowed. So that's good. And another little story thing for them I'm doing. And this is looking at the camera. It's quite nice. They've completely wilted, so I'm making it up now. I don't know what they really look like anymore. I think this needs to be more blue. So I'm doing that pencil. Yes, I'm doing that and that, and then I'm doing illustrations for another book. Stories written by school children, so I'm illustrating them. It was a competition thing, and then yes, and there's a possibly a virtual reality kind of thing, which is I don't know what to say really. It's a possible thing, but suddenly I find I'm getting a little team building up, and it's getting. Suddenly it seems like maybe it might happen. And so that's quite exciting. That's going to be learning a whole bunch of new skills. In fact, I think I'm going to be having to do digital artwork really. So I've ordered an iPad Pro so that I can start practicing digital artwork. I think I need these little kind of lines coming up in there. An iPad Pro and an Apple Pencil. So Oh, that was a bit heavy. Oh, but that's okay. Yeah, so I'm going to have to start kind of learning how to do digital stuff, which I'll no doubt be doing on here as well. And I think that, I keep saying I think that that's all I'm going to do. I just need to kind of put more kind of shadow in some places like that. I think that's all I'm going to do now, because this is not a botanical illustration. If you're doing a botanical illustration, then it's got to be absolutely accurate. So this is more painterly. This is decorative. I think I'm going to call that it, because I think if I do any more, it's going to be a mess. And I think for a Mother's Day card.
Thanks for watching, and you can support this channel and get so much more on my Patreon page. Click to find out more. Make sure you are subscribed to the Shoe Render Drawing channel on YouTube, and in the meantime, keep drawing, practice, and I'll see you next time. You take care now. Bye bye.